Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. How is your summer going? I want to know. And I think this episode might help you as you navigate all of the things on your plate. I know these beautiful, easy breezy days of summer are not always so easy. And sometimes we can find extra challenges because it might seem like there's actually more on our plates with the kids at home or with the added stresses of navigating travel or trying to squeeze more work into less time. And I want you to know that that's totally normal and it's natural. And we are all in the same boat. But our guest today can help us in maybe navigating this process. We have Shayna Bergman on the show, and Shayna is a passionate, results-oriented coach who empowers motivated individuals to unlock their potential. She has a proven track record of helping people to achieve deeper meaning and fulfillment in their personal and professional lives through authentic leadership and getting that clarity of purpose. With a focus on parents in the executive and leadership space, Shayna challenges her clients to look deeply at themselves by reflecting on their values, dreams, limiting beliefs, and inner critics. She then helps them create an action plan that inspires breakthroughs and leads to sustainable change. She is known for her perceptiveness, her insights, and her ability to speak the truth to leaders at all levels. Her most successful clients are those who are dedicated to evolving their best selves and fostering that growth in others. Now, today for this episode, we are going to be talking about the 7 levels of parenting as professionals, as leaders of our own households, leaders within our vocations. And we're going to be going through these 7 different levels. And I have a feeling you're going to see little snippets of yourself within all of them. And there might be 1 or 2 levels that you find yourself spending a little more time in. So we're going to be going over these 7 levels and how you can create that version of yourself that you want to be, how you want to show up, and how you want to move through your days as a parent, as a professional, as a leader, and just as a human in this busy and ever evolving world. With all of this, I can't wait to dive in with you. Enjoy this episode. Let's dive in. My name is Andryanna, and this is the Juggle is Real podcast. After experiencing burnout 5 years ago, I knew that I needed to make a change, and I had to do some deep digging to find out what the root cause of my problem was. And it turns out that it wasn't so much tied to my work or being too busy, but it was busily working to live up to the pressure I put on myself to be the perfect mom, wife, colleague, friend, and more. After committing to leading a more intentional and balanced life, I learned how to let go of all the stuff that wasn't serving me so I could prioritize my well-being and show up as the best version of myself for those around me. Now, it's an ongoing journey, and I have made it my mission to help busy people find better balance through this show. I hope that you feel seen, that you lighten your load, and that you learn as I share insights, actionable tools, and mindset philosophies to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with less stress and more ease, joy, and fun. Plus, I have some incredible guest experts who are well-known faces in the wellness, education, entrepreneurship, and motherhood space that are going to help you simplify, streamline, and supercharge your journey of better balance and self-love. Now, are you with me? Let's get started. Welcome to the Juggle is Real, Shayna. Thank you so much for being here. Happy summer to you.
Thank you. Same to you. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad that we could coordinate this conversation. And to the listener, it was kind of funny because we've kind of been going back and forth, and there's been cancellations in our schedules, and we've been kind of like doing the back and forth. I think that's kind of just the epitome of summer and trying to schedule and trying to, go back and forth with work. But we're here and we're having this conversation, and I'm so happy to be sharing it. Just to begin, I really love the work that you're doing, especially in helping professionals and women in leading life with intention and just serving everyone around them as well as themselves in their best light. So can you start by just sharing a little bit about yourself?
I'd love to. Yeah. So first of all, I'm a mom. I have 2 little kids. One of them is 5, one of them is 8, going on 18. I joke.
Of course.
And I'm married. And I am, to your point, I'm a leadership and executive coach, and I work mostly with parents who are in leadership and executive roles. And I do that because I believe in the ripple effect. I believe that if moms and dads are not living their best lives, that they're not doing everything that they feel is in their power to do, that they're not living their potential professionally and personally, that it has an impact on their families, it has an impact on their communities. And so I really try to help people find what it is that they want to do, live that best life personally and professionally, so that it impacts their families and their communities and the world, really.
That's so beautiful. Now, how do you do this yourself? I would love to know, because oftentimes the coach has been coached, and with this learning process that we are going through, the journey we're going through often helps shape how we can serve others. So I would just be, sort of curious to know, what was your story and how did you get to where you are so that you can help others in this profession?
Yeah. So it's interesting because for so long I thought, well, I don't need a coach. Like, I've got this figured out. I'm fine. What could somebody else help me do in my life? And it really took me partnering with somebody else, with a coach, to really embrace what it is that I share with my clients. So for me, I came from the corporate world. I worked for over 20 years in corporate, and I was doing the juggle, right? It was everything from getting up in the morning, getting on the hamster wheel of life, getting the kids out the door, getting to work, coming home, getting them dinner, getting them baths, into bed, and then working again. And I was doing it over and over and over and over again. And I found myself enjoying it, but knowing there had to be more, that this couldn't be my life. I was missing out at work because I was tired, and missing out on with the kids. It was just both. It was like everywhere I looked, I felt like I was sacrificing somewhere. And at some point I said to myself, there's just got to be a better way. And so, like a lot of people during the pandemic, when it was just tensions were high in all ways, personally and professionally, and I was working till 3 and 4 in the morning, I woke up and said to myself, if I'm going to be working this hard for somebody else, I could be working this hard for me. And I was already doing a little bit of coaching. I came from the world of human resources. And so I decided enough is enough. I'm going to figure out what I need to do to move into the coaching space. I had always wanted to do that. And so I found a coach to help me kind of get on the path to what I wanted. And it really took somebody holding my feet to the fire, holding me accountable, pushing me in places where I was uncomfortable going, challenging me, pointing out patterns, helping me work through all the fears that I had about, what if it doesn't work out? What if, all the what ifs that we ask ourselves? What if I sacrifice myself professionally or personally, or as a mom or as a wife? And really, again, holding myself accountable to moving in the direction I wanted to go in. So now I feel like I live my best life. I feel like I live a dream life because I'm now doing something that I love. It's on my own terms. I get to see my kids a lot more. I get to meet them at their school for lunch. And I do meaningful work. And so for me, I feel like I've really hit the jackpot, to be honest, in a lot of ways.
Congratulations. I think it's so inspiring when we hear stories like yours. And I know, the listener, if you've been listening for a while, I mean, my journey has been greatly impacted by the coaches who have really helped me in, leading a more intentional life and allowing things to be easy. I mean, of course, there's action and there's work and there's things that are going to be a challenge. But when we can really pursue our passions and see what's on the other side of that fear or those doubts or that guilt or those judgments that we hold, sometimes unconsciously, right? Sometimes things that we don't even really know, there truly is so much more, and those doors can be opened so wide, and it's so beautiful. And I know that for the people who are listening, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are in executive and leadership positions, people who might want to take a step and move in a different direction, but might be worried because they have a family. There's a lot going on, and the easy breezy days of summer sometimes means that there's actually more on our plates because we have the kids at home, or there's different camps, or planning family travel, or just trying to make sure that everyone is, has sunscreen on and bug spray and all of these things. But what I really am interested in learning about, and I think it will help us through the summer months, but moving forward, especially as we kind of delve into the fall months, going back into our roles in sort of that start of the year, is something that you call the 7 levels of parenting as a professional. And this, I would love for you to share more, but this has stemmed from 7 levels of leadership. And I'd like to go through each level, but just as an overhead, we start with victim and we end with passion. And I think that's so beautiful because, to hear about you and the passion that you have for your career and your vocation and what you're doing now, I think we have a lot to learn. So can you begin by explaining these 7 levels and how levels of leadership applies to parenting?
Absolutely. Yes. I love doing this. I do this with all of my clients. And in fact, my clients actually take an assessment so they can see what level they're operating at, which is really interesting because a lot of times we need that awareness in order for us to move into action. But I'll start with giving an overview. So yeah, I talk about the 7 levels of leadership and I can apply it to a lot of different things, including parenting. And basically, in summary, we look at the world through different lenses based on our beliefs, based on how we were raised, our perceptions, our experiences, et cetera. And so energy leadership looks at how each of us as individuals operate when we are at our best and then when we're under stress. And so it looks at our motivation, our engagement, our confidence, and how those things work for us when we are in a constructive space, a space of being able to build, a space where we feel like we're at our best. We call that anabolic energy, versus how those things, that confidence, that motivation, that energy, how those things are impacted when we have a stressor, when we're under stressed, and how that
who doesn't have those, right?
We all have it, right? It's normal. And how that drops us into this energy that is quite destructive, where we can't see through the fog. And we call that catabolic energy. And so it's really understanding where we operate day to day.
Can you pause for 1 minute? What are the 2 types?
Yeah. So the first one is anabolic energy. Anabolic is that constructive building up. Yep. And then the second is catabolic energy. That's that energy that's destructive, that tears us down. That's really hard to kind of see through the fog.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
Yeah, sure. And so at those high levels, that anabolic space, we're at our best. We see possibility, we see potential, we see all the different things that are available to us. And then when we're in that stressed catabolic state, it's really hard to see our way out. It's like everything is foggy. We don't see possibilities. Everything is sort of black or white type thinking. And so you can apply it, like I said, to anything in your life, but I love to apply it to parenting in particular. So I talk about 7 levels that move us from sort of that catabolic space all the way through to that anabolic space. And I'm happy to go into those whenever you want.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's important to note, stress is good. There are different types of stress, and we do require stress in our lives to move, and this can be beautiful. But when that stress becomes too much and, it overwhelms us, it consumes us, then, like you're saying, it feels like we're going through that fog. And instead of, a stress of maybe going for a walk or a jog or, getting that heart rate up, it's like we can't even move through our day-to-day motions because it just feels too heavy and it feels too hard. So I think many of us have felt this. Maybe we're feeling this right now. And I would love for you to share how we can go from this level 1 feeling to that more energized state of the positive, where we can really open up that higher cognition in our brain, and we can tap into the creative side, or maybe the side that we are learning more about our passions and feel that we can actually pursue them. So let's start with level 1 and victim.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the victim level 1 is that sort of I lose, we lose type mindset. It's like, you feel like you're a victim, you feel stuck, you feel like there's no way out. And so I love to give examples as I go through these, especially as it relates to parenting. And so I'm going to talk about cleaning your room. I feel like that applies to so many different ages. And so if you think about that level 1 perspective, it's like there's just everything is happening around us and we have no control. So as a parent, we might feel overwhelmed or frustrated. Maybe it's that our kids refusing to clean their room and we just feel totally helpless. And so we might think to ourselves something like, why does my kid always resist cleaning their room? I feel like they're intentionally making my life really hard. So that's that level.
How can they be doing this to me?
They're doing it to me. It's right. Exactly. There's nothing I can do. Exactly. That's that level 1. And I do want to say, to your point, there's not any intention to be necessarily not operating at level 1, level 2 in those catabolic stress states. Because to your point, we need those. So they're important. The question you want to be asking yourself, though, is, am I in those spaces because it's my habit, or am I in those spaces because it's by choice? And so the goal here is really to be living very consciously, very intentionally, so that we are picking where we want to operate from a place of decision-making and and choice and agency versus this is just the habit I fall into.
Yes. Yes. Good point. Okay. So victimhood, I think we can all relate to that. Sometimes I feel like the victim when it comes to cleaning my kitchen because it's that never ending task and you feel like it's just sparkling and then another meal comes and you're like, what just happened? What just happened? But I know that we can move past this, right? So level 2 is antagonist. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So this is that level of I win, you lose. It's like that black and white thinking. It's either this or that. It's right or wrong. It's good or bad. It's us versus them is a lot of times what we see in parenting. Either they get away with what they want or we do, but we can't both get what we want, which causes that resentment, that anger, those conflict related emotions. And so it's like, as it relates to cleaning a room, a parent might react with anger and a desire to sort of assert their authority. It's like, I've had enough. I'm the parent. They need to obey me. They can't just ignore their responsibilities. I'm right. They're wrong. And so that's that level 2 anger.
Okay. Yes. And I can see this too, especially in circumstances where, sometimes parenting can be challenging. And I have one neurodivergent kiddo. And so sometimes there's some like oppositional forces at work. And so it can really feel like it's us against them. And it's really important to know when you're in that space, I feel like, because we've seen and for myself and my family, we've done counseling and we've seen specialists and we've, read so much. And it's like, when you're in the space, it's kind of like butting heads, right? Because both sides wanted to come out victorious, but until you work together, right? And I'm sure we're going to get there where you're not going to, see the other person's perspective or be able to even, start that process of learning how to work together for one common goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, and to your point, sometimes you need to get to that headbutting space in order to move forward. Sometimes that's a good place to be. So you realize, okay, enough, we can't do this anymore. And that's okay.
Yeah. The contrast, right? Because when we know what we don't want, then we can actually see maybe what we do want. And maybe that's going to help us as we move forward. So level 3, we're getting out of that energy, I feel like, right? We're into rationalizing. Can you explain this one?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've just left the catabolic levels and we are now sort of entering the anabolic levels, that constructive space. So level 3 is that level where you think to yourself, I win, but if you win too, that's great. So I think of this as the level of coping or as tolerance, where it's fine. Everything is just sort of fine. So as a parent, they might try to reason with themselves and come up with excuses for the reason that their children or child is acting the way that they're acting. So they might think something like, well, maybe my child has too many things on their plate right now. I don't want to push them too hard. It's fine. We'll deal with the room later. And so it's a space of being able to kind of get through it and find a solution, but you're not necessarily dealing with the actual issue, which is why sometimes with level 3, sometimes it's helpful to go to the place of feeling stuck or feeling angry because it allows you to move into an even more anabolic space rather than just sticking in this sort of, I call it the hashtag blessed level. We're like, it's just fine. A lot of us, by the way, as mothers, especially working mothers, we live in this space. This is that like, I just need to get to the next day. At least my family is healthy, right? We kind of make all these reasons why it's good enough. And I believe it doesn't need to be good enough. You can make it great. And so level 3 is one that we work a lot on.
Yeah. I think sometimes that toxic positivity phase.
That's it.
Yeah. I can see myself in this space a lot, especially in the past. It's like, just let's get through to bedtime. Yeah. You want that? Sure. I'll, okay. But if you go to bed now, then you can do this, that, or the other thing, or brush your teeth and you'll get an extra story. It's like rationalizing with yourself, but maybe with your children as well. Wow. This is very eye-opening. Okay. So we don't want to stay in the rationalizing state because that can maybe be harmful because we're not actually pursuing those higher spaces. So as we move through to level 4, we learn about being a helper. What does this mean?
Yeah. So level 4 is the level where you win. This is the level of compassion, the level of empathy, caring, nurturing, where we are in service to other people. So whatever anybody else wants is how we serve. So we might think to ourselves with our children, well, they're so tired from school and all their activities, and they probably don't even have the time to clean their room. And really, is it something they care about? No, but as long as they're happy, I'm happy. So that's level 4. So we're moving even further now into the more anabolic spaces. And again, it doesn't mean you have to be at this level. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. No levels are positive or negative, but is this level one that might serve you in the moment?
Okay. Sounds like the people pleasing level to a degree.
It
How do you feel
can
about that?
be. It can
Okay.
be, but a lot of times there's real joy in this. We see this with a lot
Okay.
of service helper type industries where there's a lot of joy in helping other people. But the question is, are you doing it because you're people pleasing and that's your habit? Or are you doing it from a true heart space where you get pure joy out of it? And so you really want to ask yourself, which of those is it, so that you can, again, use agency in order to choose what's going to serve you best.
Right. Because it is true. I mean, they say like most of the fun is in giving the gift, is not even receiving. Sometimes it's like, going out and choosing and really trying to serve others and help others. And so much of, I feel like in motherhood, we are serving and we are helping and we sign up for it and we do it willingly and it does bring us great joy, but there is more to it. Right. And so I think state level 4 helper, we can gain from that, but we can also move higher. So let's talk about level 5, where that you call collaborator. Talk
Yeah.
to me
So
about
level
collaborator.
5. Yeah. This is where we both win. This is the win-win level. This is where there's
Yay.
peace, there's reconciliation. This is sometimes can be challenging for people to find, but it can also be very easy. I think of this as the level of opportunity. So no matter what's happening, whatever feels good, bad, and different, what are we learning in this moment? What is it teaching us? Where's the opportunity here? And so a parent might try to find ways to help their child find their own motivation and their own focus for cleaning their room, for example. So they might think something like, well, I need to find a way to make cleaning more engaging for my child. So maybe we turn it into a game. Maybe we do it to music. Maybe we dance. Maybe we even, throw things through a hoop and get it into a basket. And that's how we make it fun. And so the room's getting clean, the parent's happy. Cleaning the room is fun, and a child's getting attention from their parent. So the child is happy. So this is where we find that win-win level.
Okay, this is great. And you're saying it's solution focused. And so this is where sort of everyone's happy, right?
Yep.
Because we're both working together, one common goal, and we're working together, we're collaborating.
That's right.
And like I'm thinking of this and I'm like, okay, well, this is great. Like this, we can end it here. And I think, you can go to bed feeling great. Like you've pat yourself on the back, you've done a great job, but we're only at level 5. We've got more. We can pursue higher cognition. So level 6 and 7, let's go into these. Level 6, you call creator. Talk to me about creator.
Yeah. So level 6 is where everybody wins. This is where we're using creativity. We're using our intuition, our gut, if you will. And there's a lot of joy in level 6, a lot of wisdom. So things are getting done. There's even joy in the mess. There's joy in the abundance. There's joy in the chaos. And maybe it's because it's not going to last forever and you know that you're going to miss it eventually. And it gets clean when it gets clean. It's fun to discover what's there and where you can put it. There's appreciation at this level for everybody's sort of unique way of organizing or being or their own process. Or you could even look at it as a level where, as a parent, we enjoy cleaning, we enjoy organizing. And so we can find joy in doing it ourselves. And we want to share that positivity with our children. We might even say something like, I love cleaning. This can demonstrate my enthusiasm for it and how I can make it fun. And then I can show my child that this can be fun as well. Now, again, some people might hear this and say, well, that's never going to happen. But it's sort of, how can you tap into it? Where can you find joy, whether it's cleaning or something else, joy in the process for yourself? And then again, there's that ripple effect on those people around us. And how can you help them find joy in it too, bringing in whatever their unique strengths are, right? We all bring, again, those different lenses to the table. So how can we appreciate our own lens and the lens of others as well?
This is really good. This is great. And I think it helps me to kind of, have like a reference point, because it's like, well, why is, emptying the dishwasher so hard some days, whereas other days it's just like, we're doing it. It gets done faster, it seems like, and it's just like, one little blip in the day that means nothing, is very neutral, which maybe we can talk about level 7, but I find and so this is something I talk about a lot, is when we are caring for ourselves, then it makes the other things flow with more ease. When we do know, okay, well, I have this plan for myself, or I've just, done this for myself, and I'm feeling in a state where I'm calm and I'm composed, or, I'm feeling good, then sometimes something like a messy room doesn't feel as big because, I'm at a place right with myself where I'm in a good place. So maybe we can talk about level 7, which is passion, and kind of how that ties in.
Yeah. So level 7 is where, in a way, we call it passion, but it's also this concept that winning is sort of an illusion. It's like not even a real thing. There's non-judgment at this level. So it doesn't really matter whether it's clean, whether it's dirty. It's just all part of the experience of life. So clean and dirty aren't even good or bad. They just are. And so whatever the room is, it is, whether it's clean and dirty, it's a made up construct that we live against. And we do this with a lot of things in society where we think it has to be a certain way. And so it's sort of this just sort of this level of, I almost joke, it's like levitating when you're meditating. It's not necessarily easy to always access that level, right? It's like that level that's just so difficult to get to. But also, if you can get to a space of it doesn't really matter, because what is clean and dirty anyways, that's a beautiful place to be. Again, we don't all operate at that space all the time, but if you can access it on occasion, that's a great thing.
Okay. And this is sort of a neutral place then, like no judgments are held. And like, what would you describe sort of that feeling then? Is it kind of just being neutral, or what would it be?
In a way, it's almost like it just is like you're both a participant and an observer of what's happening at the same time. And so I always ask clients, like, where do you feel like you access level 7? And a lot of people will say it's like when they're exercising, or for me, it's when I'm walking. It's like my mind is, I almost joke, I get like divine downloads. Like I just have these free flowing thoughts. I'm very in flow. I'm not judging it. It's just happening. I'm just sort of being, and very at peace with that feeling of just being. Now, a lot of people will also say there's an aloofness to that level. And that's why all these levels have advantages and disadvantages. And level 6 and 7, sometimes you can seem almost disconnected, but it doesn't mean that you are, right? It's just that sort of, it's this ability to just kind of be, just kind of enjoy, just be with whatever is.
And probably be more present, I would imagine, as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is so good. So we have 7 levels: victim, antagonist, rationalizer, helper, collaborator, creator, and passion. And this is really cool to see these 7 levels, whether you're looking at it from a leadership position, in your vocation, or you're looking at it through the lens of your home life, parenting, maybe in a relationship. But it's great to know, and awareness really is that first step. And it's so important to have this awareness. This has been really eye-opening for me, because I can see where I've been and where, how I live my life in all of these different levels. But how do we then move forward and take action? How do we say, okay, well, maybe I'm a level 1, or maybe right now I'm really just rationalizing a lot. I'm just trying to get through the day. I'm just going through the motions. Nothing's really bad, but it's not really good. How do I then try to tap into those high levels? Or how do I actually move into the space where I'm responding and making the decision to choose where I fit in? What are those first steps that we can start off with?
Yeah. So it's really helpful to really start to get clear and honest with yourself with, where am I operating right now? So I'll tell you, for me, for example, when I feel like my kids are pushing a nerve, and I was there last night where I was like at my wit's end, I stop and I ask myself, okay, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling very level 2. Like it is my way or the highway, like go to bed. Right. And I have to ask myself, okay, if I know I'm feeling level 2, I become aware of it, first of all. Then I accept it, right? There's no judgment on it. I'm not a bad parent because I get angry. I'm normal and I'm human, and we all are in these moments. So there's the awareness, then there's the acceptance of it. And then there's the action. So what do I want to do with it? So last night, for example, I wasn't making the situation any better by being angry.
Yes.
For a moment, it took that for me to say, okay, I'm in this space and this is not helping, right? I needed to get there, but what am I going to do now? So for me, I moved into like, what does level 3 look like? Well, level 3 means at least they're getting to bed. We had just been traveling all day, so everybody was a little cuckoo. At least they're getting to bed. They're going to be fine. They're going to wake up, and like, we're all just tired. And so I got to the place of, it's fine. It's not a big deal. It's fine. which allowed me to get to a better headspace. And then I could show up better for my children and for my family. And so it's really sort of almost playing a game. What does it look like if I were to go to level 4? What if I were to even go to level 5? What could that mean? What does level 6 look like? And so you get to ask yourself, sort of play a game. How could I look through these different lenses with this particular situation and play with what makes the most sense for me right now? And my husband and I even joke because I've given him this assessment. So we both have a sense of where we tend to operate in general based on this test that we took and that I give to my clients. And so it allows me to know, okay, there I am falling into my habit again. And he'll joke and he'll say like, okay, it sounds like you're sort of in that level 3, level 4, Shayna. All right, what does it look like at level 5? And so we sort of play that game with each other. And it allows us to say, yeah, what does the win-win look like here? How do they get what they want? How do we get what we want? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's right. That's an option that we have that we never thought of. So I joke, it's like, we're tired as parents, right? We're dealing with so many different things. And at some point, sometimes all the doors seem shut. It's like there's no way out. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a window over here. And so this 7 levels of parenting gives you that access to what are the windows that we can now access when all the doors seem shut. And as soon as you get into that anabolic space, all of a sudden there's these potential possibilities that open up. So it really is just sort of playing that game a little bit with the levels.
So fun. We know, like, obviously children love gamification, but I think it really works in all spaces as well. We've seen a lot of success, in the workplace with, even taking those mundane tasks and trying to have a little bit of fun with it. Now, I ask this because, 2 parts. In the moment, so to your point, bedtime can sometimes, be a bit of a struggle. Last night, my husband was out, and kudos to all the single parents out there. My 2 older boys, they're wrestling. Things are getting out of hand. I'm trying to intervene. I'm sick and tired of being the referee. I'm tired. I want to go to read my book. I was also at my wit's end, right? And so in the moment, you might be aware that you're about to lose your cool, or you may have lost your cool. Any little tips in that moment? Because for me, I know, I affirm the person that I want to be, right? And so I have truth statements that I will write out. And so I've come to know, I am patient, I am kind, I am present. And when sometimes this happens, and not always I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but I'll okay, I am patient, right? And so it's take that breath. And what would a patient person do in this moment when their kids are wrestling and slamming things all around and things are getting out of hand? But in those moments, how do you dig deep, or what do you recommend? Because we may not want to be in those sort of lower levels, and we might, realize that we might become aware, oh no, I am being very combative. I am being very, I'm feeling very angry. How can we then, knowing where we want to go, how can we kind of get there? Any little tips in the moment for what we can do?
Yeah, I have a couple. So the first is, I think it actually starts outside of those moments. So I think it's really, how do you find ways to fuel yourself as a parent before those things happen? So if you're somebody who needs to get a workout in during the day, where are you going to squeeze that in so that you are coming from a place of peace and calm and not all this pent up energy? If you are somebody who needs to go out with your girlfriends and needs to be social, where can you squeeze that in too, so that you can feel like a more centered person, more connected to who you are, so that when these moments happen, because they will, and they do, you're able to handle it from a more peaceful place rather than a stressed out place that actually has nothing to do with what's happening in the situation. So that's first. Secondly, I love what you said. It is taking that breath. It is having those moments of recognizing, who am I when I'm at my best, and how do I operate from that place? And I think there's also recognition that we're human, right? And so I think it's sometimes giving ourselves grace and space to know that it is normal to get angry. It is normal to feel stuck. It is normal to be mad. It's normal to say, am I doing the right thing, right? We're human. And then how do you quickly move out of that? Because those spaces, while helpful for the moment, don't get us out of them. And so this is where mindset work comes in. This is where the coaching work comes in that I do with my clients. It's not like you flip a switch and say, well, I'm just going to be calm and I'm just going to love them through it, right? If we could only do that all the time.
Right.
But through practice and through creating sort of what I call, there's new grooves in our brain that we create, right? We fall into habits, which are our old grooves, like a muscle. And that's what's easy. It's the yelling, it's the getting mad, it's the telling them go to bed. How do you create those new grooves? It's through practice and repetition and constantly sort of checking yourself and saying, how do I want to be in this moment? And that question is not a natural question that comes easily when we're feeling angry. But the more that we
Yes.
can try to conjure that, the more easily it will start to come to us. And that takes time and it takes focus and it takes practice and it takes patience. And so whether that's somebody else helping you and checking you, whether that's having a mantra to your point that you can quickly access, whether that's knowing I just need to take a step back or step out of the room and excuse myself so I can gather myself to operate at my best. And maybe that's even sometimes getting mad, like that's okay too, right? But it's knowing that there is a practice to this work, and that the more that you do that, the quicker you're able to access it, and the more regulated that we can be, and the more that we are able to deal with it from a place of being mentally healthy, and showing our children how we show ourselves compassion too, that they're able to then learn that and mimic that too. And it's okay for them to see mom is mad. Mom needs to disappear into her room for a minute and gather herself, like, whoa, we really ticked her off, right? That's okay
Mm-hmm.
too. And then, okay, mom is working her way through this so that we can learn how to do that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think mirroring helps our children understand as well, like when they get those feelings, when they have those butting heads with their siblings or with people at school, then they can see what that process is for themselves. Now, you mentioned something interesting, really, really important, and perhaps you can shed some light on this, is that it doesn't start in the moment. It starts before that, and it starts with making the decision, I feel, as to how you do want to be responding or how you do want to see yourself and interact with the world around you. So can
Mhm.
you speak to this? Maybe there is a short exercise or something that our listeners can go through that might help us tap into that creator space or the passion, or setting that groundwork so that when we do inevitably end up in one of those, lower energy levels, or, we're angry or we're in a space where we want to move past it, then we have that. So we can start creating these pathways, as you mentioned, so that we have these new, neural pathways in our brain of like, oh, the fork in the road. Yeah, this one was more comfortable. This one might be, a clear path for me, but this is the one that I want to pursue. And as we continue to go down that path, it becomes the more familiar. It can become the one that is just, automatic, and it doesn't have to be that process of really working through it and digging deep. Anything that
Yeah.
you can offer just as an initial step,
Yeah.
and how do we make that decision, and how do we come about determining the person we want to be?
Absolutely. So I'll tell you a quick story about a client and then what we worked through. And hopefully this is helpful for your listeners. I have a client who has two little kids. And she has been at her wit's end and so stressed, and stressed in her marriage, and stressed with the kids, and stressed at work, and just everything is hard right now. And there is truth to that. Absolutely. And she
Absolutely.
kept
Yeah.
saying to me for so long, I just feel like I need a night out with my girlfriends. Like I just need to reconnect, but I can't. And so when I hear I can't, what I hear as a coach is, okay, there's some block, right? There's some mental block getting in the way here that creates that can't. What is that? Usually it's one of four things. It's either what I call the gremlin, which is your inner critic. It's that voice that says, you're not good enough. You don't deserve the time. Who do you think you are leaving your babies? Right? It's that little like nitpicky voice that we have. That's one. The second is it's assumptions that we make. So maybe, and a lot of times we assume, well, our kids won't be okay without us. They won't be able to go to
Mhm.
bed without us. We make assumptions. Then there's what we call interpretations. So we say, well, they're crying because they miss us. They're crying because they feel like we're not there enough because we're gone all day. We are making a story around what we think is causing their emotional state that we don't know is truthful or not. And then the last is our limiting beliefs. And so that's that feeling of, well, I can't because good moms don't do that. Good moms don't go out with their girlfriends. We create these stories. Good moms are home for their kids to put them to bed every night. And
Oh,
so I
I had
always
that one.
listen.
I had that one big time.
Yes,
Yeah, a
we
long
all
time ago.
do. We all
Yeah.
do. And so I really work with my clients to figure out what is getting in the way. What is it? And what is the story that we're telling ourselves versus where's the truth? And so with this particular client, when we got under the hood of what was really there, and it was a combination of all those things, and we all have them. And just when we tackle those, new ones pop up. That's normal. All of a sudden, she was able to say, all right, let me just dip a toe into the water. And she went out and grabbed some drinks with her friends for the evening. And we talked later that week, and she came back and she said, I feel like a new person. She was only gone for like 2 hours, but she was able to laugh and reconnect and enjoy her friends and enjoy herself again. And then she was able to show up better as a mom. And guess what? Her kids went to bed just fine. They did fine with dad. Even dad had grandma there to help. Everybody woke up happy the next day, and she was feeling better. And because she was feeling better the next day and for the next couple days, so were they. And so I think a lot of it actually comes down to self-care. It's like the more that we can give ourselves what we need and break through those stories that we're telling ourselves, the more we can show up for everybody else. And it sounds backwards, I know, to a lot of people. But I guess the one takeaway is, how can you just dip your toe into giving a little bit more to yourself so that you can show up for other people, so you can operate more in those anabolic spaces when you need to?
I'm getting emotional, Shayna. And I think it's because I can really relate to that your client in the before, and just how powerful it can be. The smallest things that we can allow for ourselves, that we can receive, that we can do, makes such a huge difference. And it provides us with evidence, right? Like, it's like, okay, so I did that. It made me feel better. It made me want to show up as a better mom, as a better partner, better in my life. And the kids were okay. And everything, was fine. Nothing fell apart. And now I have this evidence in the back of my head that I know that it works, and I can prove to myself that I can feel better. Everyone else can feel better. And it really is that collaborative space when everyone can win. And perhaps, you're even tapping into, that those additional energy levels. And so it makes me really happy to hear that your client was able to do that. And I mean, I call myself a self-care advocate, and I sometimes sound like a broken record because I'm like, take care of yourself, take care of yourself, take care of yourself. So any final advice or parting words for how we can lose the guilt, lose the judgments, or that story we're telling ourselves, those limiting beliefs, so that we can finally get that evidence that we need to take that first step, dip our toe into the water, and do something that's really going to be fulfilling, to fill our cup up, to be in that overflow state? How can we maybe move past those initial judgments so that we can do something that's going to serve us?
Yeah. So as it relates to parents, here's what I would say. I would say, pretend like whatever story you're telling yourself, you are hearing from your child. Imagine your child is saying to you, I am so burnt out. I feel like I can't catch a break. I haven't left the house in so many days. I feel like I'm yelling at the kids all the time. What would you tell them? And in a lot of cases, you probably say, go take a break. Go get your nails done. Go watch a movie. Go take a step out and read a book. Fine, I'll help you. I'll jump in. Right. And I think what it often comes down to is that self-care. And so really sort of putting yourself in the position of, if I were a grandparent saying this to my children, what advice would I give them? And I think that sort of helps put it into perspective a little bit. And if you remember, your children are watching you, right? So when you show how important self-care is, how important it is to be able to take that breath and operate at your best so that they can operate at their best too, I think it really helps put into perspective what's actually happening in the moment, how it's very fleeting, and it allows us to actually step into who we are when we are really operating at our best and maximizing our potential.
Beautiful. Now I'm going to put you in the hot seat before we go, because we're talking about the 7 levels of parenting as professionals. We're in these beautiful summer months. Like we said, sometimes that means there's more on our plates. So what are you doing to care for yourself? How are you juggling the roles and the different hats you wear when it comes to being a parent, a partner, a friend, a professional? How are you serving yourself as well as those around you this summer?
Yes. So I mentioned that I think it's important to get in front of those moments. And so we just did that. My husband and I just took a little trip. We went to Amsterdam for a couple of days, just the two of us. And we haven't done that in many, 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 many years. And we knew in anticipation of the summer months, we wanted to reconnect. We wanted to get away. And I even wrote a post about it because I wrote, it was me living my most delicious life. And what it allowed me to do was come back and talk to my kids about culture and travel and what we did and how mom and dad got away and they saw us reconnected and they saw that it was good for us and the kids did just fine while we were gone. We showed pictures, we brought back things, but we're still writing that. And that was a couple of weeks ago. We planned it very last minute. It was a totally like, we had all the reasons why we shouldn't, right? All the stories. It's too expensive. The economy is bad. What if our clients need us? I'm going to be missing work. The kids are going to miss us. All those things. We knocked them out. We said, let's do it. And so now we're able to ride that through the summer. And it honestly, I can still feel the joy from that trip. And I intend to have that carry us through. And it's a reminder of it's okay to get away. It's okay to reconnect. It's okay to take a little break. And I think that's how you continue to work through all this craziness that's happening and all the juggling that we do over the summer months.
Oh, I love that. And it's funny you say that. My husband and I, last summer, we went away to Italy and France. I feel like I'm still feeling it. Like I can look back at photos and just that feeling, I can really just like bottle that up and just like, feel those beautiful emotions of having that time. I think having like a little bit of a plan and like you said, getting ahead of it, knowing that maybe things are going to be a little bit different. So perhaps removing some things from your plate, over these summer months and, allowing things to slide and, maybe rationalizing things in some ways so that you can in other ways look to collaborate and to be that creator and to tap into your passions over the summer. I think it would be
Absolutely
really great. Yeah. Well, Shayna, thank you so much for your time. This has been so helpful. I'm walking away from this conversation with a renewed sense of passion. And so I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Oh, that was so juicy. I hope you got a lot from this episode. I hope you got some great takeaways from Shayna, from these 7 levels of parenting. Wherever you fall, wherever you see yourself, know that we are all in the same boat. I think that's the theme for today's episode. Now, please feel free to check out the notes for this podcast episode. Shayna is offering a freebie with 5 ways to cure your imposter syndrome. So maybe if you're feeling like you want to tap into those level 6 or level 7, but you don't feel like you're worthy or you feel like you're not good enough or who am I to want more? Maybe this imposter syndrome is taking over and this freebie is something that Shayna wants you to have. So please feel free to join me in getting that freebie and looking at that free guide for 5 ways to cure your imposter syndrome and for reaching those higher levels and knowing that there's so much more that you can tap into in life. If you like this episode, if you got value, you know what to do. Rate it, write me a short and sweet review, and can you share it with a friend, someone who could get a lot of value from learning these 7 levels and tapping into the place and the space that they want to be as well. As always, I can't wait to see you here for another episode. I love you so much. I hope you're having a great summer, and I will see you again soon. Take good care.